pastor, current bass guitarist that rocks every Sunday.
AJ.
6'8", AJ.
AJ.
Guys, honestly, after the last time I preached, I didn't think I'd get the call up here again. But I got the call up here realistically before I even preached on Sunday, and I said to Melissa, "You sure? Wow, you got a lot of faith in me, man." Like, I was like, "You're gambling with me? Like, you sure me?" Like, I was surprised. But this is a really cool event. They don't have it up there, but there's the flyer. Who's seen the Stay Lit flyer?
Yes.
That looked scary at first, right? Like when I saw it, I walked in here and I saw all these red lights on and it says Stay Lit. I was like, I know these people think this is gonna be a Hell's Bells conference. Like, uh-oh, what did I pay? I don't know if y'all paid, but what did I get myself into? But then you look closer, it's actually a burning bush. And I thought that was, that's really cool. But that was just something I thought would, that just weighed on my mind a little. And so before I get started, I want to thank, Melissa, Catherine, those involved that did this Stay Lit. This is super cool with the whole glow sticks, the glow balls, everything. And can we give them a round of applause? I also want to thank Pastor G and Pastor J for giving me the opportunity again to stand up here before you guys and teach. And let's learn together, okay? All right. So I'm very animated and very, what's the word I'm looking for? I like responses. It shows me that you're alive, and it shows me that, I don't want to say paying attention because that's kind of corny, like to sound like a teacher, but it shows me that you guys are understanding. So if I keep asking you, do you guys understand? Y'all got to be truthful with me, deal? Deal. All right, awesome. Okay, so we're going to read from the book of Daniel. If anybody wants to turn there, that's totally up to you. I think we'll have slides up here in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to give you a recap of Daniel's chapter 1 through 2. Is that all right with y'all? Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who haven't read the book of Daniel, it goes a little bit like this, all right? There was an army, okay? And it was a crazy army. This army was the army of Babylonians, okay? Y'all understand that part? Okay. This army crushed, like no competition, the Israelites, like boom, it was over. Like they took, it was no competition, honestly. And it left the Israelites helpless, okay? So imagine you're in this situation, right? And you're on the Israelites team. The enemy team comes in, boom, wipes out everything. They're most likely, because everybody's young in here, going to use you as a slave for their empire. And so that's what they did. They took the Israelites that were young and healthy and said, you know what, we'll grab you and use you to help us build our empire. So that was like salt in the wound. That's like you winning a championship trophy, or you go into the finals and they're like, oh, we won, we beat you. And then every year they're like, yeah, remember we beat you? It was like that type of salt in the wound.
Come on.
So, in this story, sorry, my iPad's going crazy. In this story, what we're gonna focus on is 3 young men, all right? And so the 3 young men were named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, okay? Everybody say it with me. We're gonna say Shadrach on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Shadrach. Okay, now we're gonna say Meshach. 1, 2, 3. Meshach. Number 3 is Abednego. 1, 2, 3. Abednego. Okay, these were 3 young men. It's very important that you note they are young in this story, okay? Keep that in mind. So there was this king, and this king, I ask Ashley this all the time, how do I pronounce his name? And I got Nebuchadnezzar. There you go. There you go. He was the head of authority, right? So he was the king, and he actually liked these 3 young men. He was like, you know what, you guys are doing a great job. I'm gonna promote you. Like they started off as slaves, but even in being a slave, they still showed leadership skills, which is crazy. And it gets deeper than that. So these young men who were imprisoned showed leadership skills. They got promoted. Cool, right? Well, a lot of people didn't like that, especially the Babylonians. I mean, these are slaves, and you're promoting them? Like, that makes no sense. So the Babylonians, they kind of respected them, but there were many that didn't. And that's something that's real. Like even today, when you guys or anybody in here goes on the path of success, there's a lot of people that will try and pull you down, and we're gonna get a little bit into that. But right now, we're just talking about the 3 young men. And so they were so jealous of these 3 young men, the people were actually plotting a downfall. Now, of course, they didn't tell them that. They were watching from afar. You see, a lot of people won't tell you straight up to your face, I'm plotting your downfall. What they try to do is become your friend. Because the closer they are, and the more you reveal to them, they get to strike you with at the end.
Come on.
That's real.
Talk about it.
Even though these 3 young men were foreign and they landed on this foreign land, speaking a foreign language, serving a foreign king, they still served the one true God.
Come on.
In this time. And it was obvious. They made it very obvious. This wasn't in secrecy. They would praise God in public. Like it was, everybody knew they served God. Now at this time, a lot of beliefs were, well, there's this God and that God and my God. So for them to serve their own God, the one God that we serve today, is strength in its own. And so we could tell, obviously, these 3 men right now are very anointed, all right? As everybody in this room is anointed. Can we all agree?
Amen.
Here's the thing, though.
Okay, gotcha.
When you're anointed, people know that.
Come on.
People see your light.
Come on.
Let me give you an example. The book of John says, we are not of this world, okay? So when you become saved and you know, you believe in Jesus Christ, you accept Him as your Lord and Savior, you start to see things in the spiritual realm. You start to notice things, and at first you may be like, is something wrong with me? But what you're really seeing is there's something wrong with the world.
Come on.
See, you didn't notice it before
Come on.
because you lived in that.
Come on.
So now you're seeing night versus day.
Come on.
And so when people realize your anointing, I'm gonna put it like this, all right? I'm trying to think of the right word so I don't get in trouble. Let's say somebody pours a bucket of oil on you, okay? And then somebody takes sandpaper and tries to rub it on you. What do you guys think what's gonna happen? Do you think it's gonna rub smoothly? No, it causes something called friction.
Yep.
So when you are anointed and people know you're anointed, the people who aren't anointed or
Come on.
at that stage yet
Come on.
know that. And when they know that, it becomes, it starts to cause a friction. Why do you think a lot of teams, or I should say a lot of churches in America struggle right now? Because they got people in a position that shouldn't be in a position, which is causing friction.
Come on.
And that's why and listen, I don't mean to get into politics. I know Pastor G is like, dude, I don't know what this guy's doing right now. But there's a level of respect I have for a bunch of churches outside the U.S. because over there, some people are serving God knowing their life is on the line if they get found out.
Come on.
Just like in this story. And we're going to get into that. But there's a lot of places that don't water down the gospel. Not saying I'm not one of the people that water down the gospel, but if the Bible says it, we ought to believe it. That's how it goes. If we want to prosper and truly prosper, it takes just reading the Bible and discernment.
Come on.
I'm going to give you a story about how people try and steal your gifting, because that's possible. People could try and steal your gifting.
Come on, AJ.
A lot of people don't like to talk about that. But I'm going to give you a story. A while ago, somebody had called me, and I've been kind of rocky on a relationship with this person. And you know, one thing I'm big on is forgiveness, but I don't forget. Meaning, I'll forgive you, but I learned my lesson, and now I'm going to go my way, you go your way. Anybody else like that?
Come on. Me?
Okay,
Come on.
perfect. So y'all know where I'm coming from.
Come on,
So
AJ.
this person calls me, and they're trying to whisper sweet nothings into my ear, and they're like, well, you know, and one of the things that struck me is because a manipulative person knows, like it's like a snake, they know what words are appealing to you. They know what to say. They know what strings to pull. Because when you open yourself up to them, guess what? Now you're vulnerable.
Come on.
And now they can use it against you. And I made the mistake of that. Now I know better. Thank God for giving me clarity. But this person knew these words. Didn't you like that? Don't you want to, you know what don't you want to do that again? It was almost like really rebellious. Like, yeah, that was good. You like that? Like, why don't you come, like, do that? And in my spirit, I felt it wasn't right. So what did I do? I didn't gossip about it or anything, but I went to people I know are God-led and see what they thought.
Yes.
Right? Now, note, God-led people, not people of the world. Because remember, the people of the world...
Come on.
I ain't even gonna say it. But I went to God-led people. I noticed that they didn't agree with it. And I said, okay, so I was in tune with my spirit. There was something not right. I find out that this person, again, goes behind my back and starts talking again. Now, if I were to follow through and believe what they said, I probably would have been in somewhere I shouldn't be right now. I would have been, and I really thank God for that, because now I'm super careful. And you might think, dude, it's a sad world that I gotta live like this. But listen, you only got one shot at this. You only got one shot at this. You gotta protect yourself. If you are wanting to be a vessel of God, you better get ready to get into these fights. I notice a lot of people usually go to man for a lot of things. You can go so far with mankind. God is infinite. You can go to God, you'll get all the answers you need.
Yes.
And God's kind of funny. Sometimes he won't tell you the answer. He'll tell you something and he's like, peace. You figure it out. But that's the best way to learn sometimes. That's how we grow. I see people, you know, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because... So anyway, let's start on Daniel chapter 3. And we all good so far? Okay. So Daniel chapter 3, we'll start from verse 1. And so the king made an image of gold. It was 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, which is, if my math is right, 90 feet tall. And set it up on a plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. So it was like on a little, the best way I could explain it is like on this big thing, like, I don't know, you guys don't know what I'm talking about. This big, like, block, and then a huge statue, kind of like the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, like a pedestal, right? And so it says, he then summoned all of the higher-ups, like the governors, the advisors, treasurers, judges, all of those people to come see what he set up. And verse 3 goes, so the higher-ups came out, and they stood before this tall statue. That's what verse 3 basically says. Now, keep in mind, there were people at this time, keep this in the back of your head, that were against the 3 young men. They knew that the 3 young men wouldn't bow to the statue. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to get there. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Verse 4 says, that, oh, by the way, this king was very harsh. He actually slaughtered or ordered his men to slaughter some wise men that wouldn't interpret a dream of his. So this shows you what type of king he is. He's very, very harsh. There's nothing that goes by him. Verse 4 says, the herald loudly proclaimed, nations and people of every language. This shows to me there's a bunch of people here, because he's saying nations and peoples of every language. This is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the music, fall to your knees and worship the image, the idol of the gold king. The gold that the king has set up. And verse 6 says, whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a burning furnace. So it's either you bow or you die. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be chicken tenders for dinner. So it would have been a tough decision if I was at this place. I'm just being real.
He sounds really good on this game.
So verse 7 says, and this is something a lot of people experience, testing your faith. You believe in God, but if God is real, how come these things happen? And if God is real, how come like, bro, listen, you're financially broke because you spent all your money at the nightclub. That doesn't have to deal with God. It's free will.
Come on.
I'm real. Verse 7, therefore, as soon as they heard the sound of the music, all the nations and people of every language fell down and worshipped the image of gold that the king had set up. So everybody bowed down. That's what the Bible made it seem. But the Bible is really good at plot twist. So we're going to skip to verse 12 where it says, but there are some Jews. So this is the king's right-hand man talking now. And he tells the king, but there are some Jews you have given power to, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you. So he's basically adding fuel to the fire. He's not only saying, yo, they're not bowing to you, but dude, you see that? Like they're spitting in your face. And the dudes are just standing there. But it's that type of person. There's people like that in this world that will put more to fuel a fire because they know what triggers you. Remember, you're vulnerable. You gave yourself. Now they know your triggers. They know what your past. They know what to say.
Come on.
They could almost control you.
Come on.
That's how manipulation works.
Yep.
So the right-hand man told this. He snitched on them and he was like, they're not bowing to you and they're disrespecting you. And so the king got mad. Now the king was really egotistical as well. He wouldn't take junk from nobody. So the king went to them and said, dude, you either fall and worship that statue right now, I'm throwing you in the furnace. Don't play with me. It's like a mom telling her kids, like, you better sit that butt down before I whoop you. That's what I imagined when I read that. But that's how the king was. He was like, either bow, furnace. And the three men told him, yo, whoa, king, we don't need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. Verse 17 says, if we're thrown into this blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. Now, we know what happens next. A lot of us do. But did you know at this moment, they didn't know that God was going to appear in the furnace? At this moment, they were ready to die for their belief.
Come on.
They didn't know what was going to happen next.
Come on.
I mean, same thing with Jonah. When I was up here talking about Jonah, he didn't know he was going to be swallowed by a whale. This is called faith.
Come on.
Now, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you could...
Move out.
Oh, I got scared for a second. There we go. Perfect. So these men, just a speck and a mustard seed is microscopic, but I want you guys to take a look. A microscopic seed grows one of the biggest trees, right?
Come on.
So when you start off with a microscopic seed of faith, look at what happens to the roots. Look at what happens to the tree. It starts to grow. It starts to become strong. It starts to outlive other trees. It becomes big. They're in the forest. And that's what happens with faith. When you start small, then you start trampling it. You know what I mean? You start going to these different levels that everybody wants to be at. And we're going to get to that. Because a lot of people know what faith is. A lot of people know the battle of faith. Because it's not just saying, I believe. It's saying, I believe and I receive and I will do anything for God.
Come on. Come on. Come on, AJ.
So he told them, if we're thrown into the burning furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it. This is the perfect definition of speaking it into existence as well. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and they're like, I hate my life. I want to die. I just can't take it. Now, I'm not down talking anybody's past traumatic experiences because I don't know what that's like. I can't tell you, but I will tell you this. The fact that you're here today, the fact that you came shows me that you have a little bit of faith and you have a destination to reach. Because if you wanted to quit, if you really hated your life, you wouldn't be here right now. So what's showing me, you're showing me right here today, and I'm not challenging you by any means. There's something deep down inside of you that has that little droplet of faith to bring you and say, I want to receive a word today. Let me go home with it and let it impact me.
Amen. Come on.
And it all starts with faith, guys. And this is the same predicament. I know God, when he says, I know our God we serve is able to deliver us, they're saying the same thing in modern day. I know my God. As Christians, we should believe, I know my God because he could bring me out of rock bottom. I know my God because he delivered me from my past. I know my God can do it because he has done it before. And I know it sounds crazy. A lot of you guys are probably like, wow, I don't understand. But when you get to that point in life where you feel like you got nobody to turn to and you're all alone and you got only one and that's God, it is life-changing. The life you live right now may suck, as you say. You may want to die, but little do you know, you're living your testimony right now. And to stay lit, we have to realize humility is a thing. Don't downplay nothing. I know a bunch of people that used to challenge the devil. They used to be like, come at me, devil. Come beat me up. Come, I'm ready. 12 rounds, fight night. Let's go. A couple weeks later, they were living like the story of Job.
Come on, AJ.
That's when you start challenging, you put your faith to the test. Is your faith really that high?
Come on. Come on.
So in order to stay lit, when I think about lit, I think of a fire. And in order to stay lit, let's talk about starting a fire. To start a fire, you probably need sticks, right? Dry wood of some sort. You probably need dry leaves. I don't like camping, so I'm kind of saying what I saw on National Geographic. So in order to stay lit, you probably need sticks, leaves, dry stuff like that. You need a match, right? And it's so easy. We could just say, I'm lit. I got a fire under me. I'm staying lit. It's so easy to say that. But when you light a fire, there's things that may put out your fire. Meaning, you gotta be careful of rain. Harsh winds, somebody dousing your fire.
Come on.
Right?
Come on, AJ.
It's so easy to say this, but then when we really realize what's lit in our life, we don't want to, how can I say it? We don't want to battle what comes against us and our fire.
Come on.
What I'm trying to say is, if you want to stay lit, let go of the alcohol. If you want to stay lit, let go of the drug abuse. If you want to stay lit, let go of that person that's dousing your fire. If we're trying to stay lit, you ought to know how to guard your fire. Because if that burning bush were to never happen, we wouldn't even have that as a picture. It may just have been just stay lit. But we know what that meaning of that bush represents. And if we want to keep that fire going within us, we can't, like Pastor G said, or excuse me, I think it was Eunice, somebody said that people may go home to dysfunctionality. Listen, don't live the dysfunctionality, because if it's one thing my mama told me, it's don't be good with poverty style mentality. Because once you get up with poverty mentality, you're gonna get stuck into that. And guess what? It just keeps going like a cycle. Now you spread it to somebody else and they spread it. So there's a lot of people in this world that may be saying, I don't got poverty mentality. I challenge you guys today to go home and really, really pray and think about how you can keep this fire lit. And I promise you, it's going to be a lot of reasons. I ain't done yet. Don't start playing. Verse 18 says, we want you to know, Your Majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you set up. So after he told the king this, I was just kidding, by the way. No, but you'll know. You're blinking. Okay. So he told them, we're not going to serve this, gold, this idol you set up. You better throw me in the furnace. That was their mindset, because I ain't bowing down.
Come on.
And they had that huge drive of faith. Sometimes, guys, with faith, you'll get challenged by the devil, sure. But more times, you're going to get challenged by yourself. The thing is, a lot of people don't realize, they give the devil too much credit, right? I go to a lot of places where they're like, that was the devil messing with me and my family. I'm like, come on. And then you know the real reason, and you're like, dude, you're really giving the devil credit at this point. What happens is when people do that, it's also a sign of poverty mentality in that sense of, now you're using it as a scapegoat. And so now you're saying, I could do this, and I'm going to just say, it was the devil. When in reality, it's like, it's you. I'm not even saying you, sorry, excuse me. It's the other people. You know, don't get into that mentality, because honestly, you're going to end up destroying yourself. And then that's why a lot of people were like, I used to be Christian. Because guess what? They went back to the old lifestyle. Now they need a scapegoat.
Come on.
Because if you're really in your word, I don't need to prove to you why God is real. I don't need to prove to you why I believe in God. Because I know God fixed my life, and I know what my word says. Maybe if we ought to give people more Bibles and stuff, they would believe.
Come on. Come on, AJ. Come on.
Is this live? I'm looking at my inbox right now. Verse 21 says, and I'm going to wrap this up here. Verse 21 says, so these men wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. Now it gets crazier. The king's command, he was so mad, and it was so urgent, and that he told them to crank up the furnace, I believe, 7 times hotter than normal. So he said, crank that thing up, and then he got 2 of his own soldiers to actually go in there and tie these men up. Strongest soldiers. The fire was so hot and the king was so mad, he even killed the soldiers with that fire. The soldiers perished in that fire because he was so mad. And these 3 men firmly tied fell into the blazing furnace, right? So the king leapt up to his feet, and he looked into the little window they had, because that's what I picture. Maybe it wasn't even a window, but he looked through some sort of, for it to be visible. And he saw 3 men in there. Actually, he saw 4. The king, the one that didn't believe, the one demanding people to bow down, saw 4 men. And he said, what? How many people did we put in there? They said 3. We put in 3. He said, why do I see a 4th man? And that 4th man looks like the Son of God. Do you understand how impactful that is for a non-believer to say that looks like the Son of God? This isn't somebody that believes in God. So how would he know? Because the faith of those 3 men in there led him to believe deep down there is a God. I almost guarantee you that when those men told him, when he gave them a second chance and said, bow or the furnace, and they said, you're going to have to throw me in there because I'm not bowing, I bet deep down he said, nobody crazy enough would say this, so this has to be real. There has to be some sort of fight. He cranked up the furnace. He got the strongest men to tie him down, so there's no way they could have squirmed around. And the crazy part is, the king told them, douse the fire. Stop everything. And the 3 men walked out there smiling, praising God, not smelling like smoke, didn't have torn up clothes, nothing touched them, because God was there. And that's faith right there. The faith that they had for nothing to touch them. They declared it, they proclaimed it. This decree and declare we have on Sunday, it's not just reciting like the national anthem. It's real. You're declaring it in your life throughout the week, every Sunday. And that's all it takes, is proclaiming. We're all here today, and honestly, thank God for his goodness and mercy, because he could have ended me a long time ago. And I know I do things maybe unintentionally as well to get him mad, but I still thank God that he forgives me for what I did, even unintentionally to upset him, because he could have said, you know what, boom, that's it for you, I'm tired. The way to keep your fire lit, if you truly want to stay lit, is prayer and discernment. Because you need discernment to look around you and see who's letting you and helping you keep your fire lit. Because the same person today that's helping you may not be the same person they are today. They may be trying to douse it the next day. So that's when discernment kicks in. Who am I being vulnerable to, if not to God? And that's okay to, it's life. People are weird. I'm not going to lie to you. That's what my nephew Timothy says. People are weirdos. What can you do, right? So, let your discernment be your radar. And always remember, everybody has a destination. So, because you recovered from alcohol abuse, because you recovered from addiction and such, I salute you. But please keep your discernment radar on, because there may be another time where somebody comes in and they try to do you like they did me and say, remember when we did that together? That was super fun. And try and bring you to rock bottom, because they can't handle seeing you climb the ladder to success.
Come on, Jesus.
And then I have one final question. Thank you for having me.